Tonight we're having an in-depth conversation with Dr. Mark Russell, a former Navy psychologist, retired naval commander, and more pointedly, a military mental health whistleblower. Mark, it's such a privilege to have you join us this evening.
Beth, the privilege is mine.
Before we get to know how you ended up becoming a whistleblower, I'd like to give our listeners some context. You had a 25-year career in the military, first as an enlisted Marine, then as a naval officer. But your military life started much earlier, didn't it?
As you said, it started very early for me. My father was a career Marine and combat veteran, both of the Korean Wars and Vietnam Wars. So I grew up on military bases and attended elementary school on a Marine base in the height of the Vietnam War. And one of the most vivid memories I have introducing kind of the idea of traumatic grief and war trauma in general is in our elementary school. I think I was like in second grade, and they had these overhead announcements. The principal would get on, and you knew right away that something important was to be announced. But when they would name a student, then we knew something tragic had happened. The student would be called to come to the nurse's office, and we would not see that person again.
And then one day, one of my best friends was called. I think his name was Rodney, if I remember. After school was over, I went to his house and knocked on his door, and his mom answered, and she was crying. She was upset, and she just opened the door part way and said, "Rodney can't play. You're going to have to leave." It was very stern, and I just felt a sense of dread. I think about a week later, I rode my bike to his house, and there was a moving van. And then, within the next day, that house was vacant. My life dream was to be a baseball player. When I left college, after my baseball career failed, I had to find out what am I going to do next, and ended up my enlistment in the Marine Corps. And basically follow my dad's footsteps, which I swore to God I never would do. Because he'd always bring it up about me becoming a Marine. I would always angrily snap back at him, no way in hell would I ever want to be a jarhead, right? And yet, what did I do? I was the only son who joined the Marines. After 10 years, I had to make a choice about whether to stay in and do another 10 years and retire, or pursue a different dream, which at that point was become a psychologist and ultimately go back into the military as a naval officer and a clinical psychologist.
Come to find out here on the road, so many men with talent, only few have the soul. As I'm looking at my face in the water, I'm wondering if I am alone. Maybe I'm no better than the man who pays $1 for a fee. Maybe I'm no different than the ones who are running all of this.
Charles is a mentor. I look at him for guidance and for making me reflect on kind of where I'm too impatient.
I was in college prep in high school, and I just assumed I would be going to college afterwards. And then I was talking with my parents about how I'm getting all of these responses and very good ACT scores, and I think I could get into William and Mary. And they said, "Oh, that's good for you." The bottom line is, they were a working class family and they couldn't afford it. So it was partly patriotism, partly kind of a family tradition, and then financially. I mean, I was thinking about the GI Bill. I actually found a note that I had typed up to myself explaining why I went in the military. And it was to grow up so I can appreciate college more.